There's a book by Kurt Vonnegut called The Sirens of Titan, and I want to read an excerpt of that book because I think it speaks volumes to what we're going to talk about in this video today. The only known form of life on the planet Mercury, Harmonium. The Harmonium is a cave dweller, a more gracious creature would be hard to imagine. There is no way in which one creature can harm another, and no motive for one's harming another. The creatures have only one sense, touch. They have weak powers of telepathy. The messages they are capable of transmitting and receiving are almost monotonous as the song of Mercury. They have only two possible messages. The first is an automatic response to the second, and the second is an automatic response to the first. The first is, here I am, here I am, here I am. The second is, so glad you are, so glad you are, so glad you are. Because of their love for music and their willingness to deploy themselves in the service of beauty, the creatures are given a lovely name by earthlings. They are called harmoniums. I love that passage, and I love the messages that are transmitted and received to one another, and I think that speaks to us as human beings. When we are born and as babies, right out of the gate, we do something, an action, that asks for connection. We reach toward the one we know can reach back, and that's typically our mother and or our father. It's an innate experience. It's an innate action. In fact, it's just an innate behavior. When we want to feel connected, we reach. We look up and we put our arms out and we say, here I am, here I am, here I am. What we expect to hear back is so glad you are, so glad you are, so glad you are. And when this cycle is completed and continues to run automatically, what happens is we learn to properly attach. The part of the brain, the limbic brain, understands chemically, neurologically, and psychologically how to attach to another human being. This is called bonding. This is called attachment. And we grow up as adults having established this connection, understanding how it works, having been in a cycle or a pattern that's really healthy with another adult as a child, and we now know how to have healthy adult relationships, how to attach appropriately. If this cycle is broken, and when we say, here I am, here I am, here I am, and we don't get the response, the reach back, we're confused. And we do it several more times, and we become even more confused. Maybe we become hopeless, despairing. Maybe we even find ourselves helpless and angry and sad. And then we grow up to be adults, and we're not quite sure how to connect. We're scared. We're fearful. We don't want to be rejected, and so therefore we don't take the risk. When we're solving for whether we need to be right or in relationship, this has a direct impact on that result. If we were taught properly how to attach, if we were taught properly that we were welcomed, that we were wanted, that we mattered, if we heard unconsciously and non-verbally, so glad you are, so glad you are, so glad you are, then we can actually replay that same message, we can transmit that same message to those around us. However, if there was a pattern interrupt in that transmission, and we didn't get to complete, we didn't get to feel bonded or belonged or connected to, then we have the experience of feeling challenged when trying to establish connection or any version or variation of a relationship with another being. We feel doubtful, scared, apprehensive, skeptical. We may question authority. This is how important it is to have the experience and to choose to be in relationship with others rather than being right. As we step into choosing to be in relationship with those around us, we actually start to transmit, so glad you are, so glad you are, so glad you are. And if that's the response being transmitted, most likely the automatic response transmitted back to you will also be, so glad you are, so glad you are, so glad you are. Jack Kornfield said, if a person filled with panic or hatred walks into a room, we feel it immediately. And unless we're very mindful, that person's negative state will begin to overtake our own. When a joyfully expressive person walks into a room, we can feel that state as well. So just think back on a time, a younger version of yourself. What was it like when mom or dad walked into a room and it felt awesome? And think back on a time when maybe it didn't feel so awesome. Notice how you do this all the time. This is called limbic resonance. Limbic resonance basically refers to the energetic exchange that happens between two individuals or more. You are always gauging whether you are safe or loved, and the limbic resonance piece is key in assessing that situation. I'm going to read a small paragraph from A General Theory of Love. It says, their interaction, those between two people, their interaction stimulates the release of certain neurochemicals in the limbic region of the brain. These chemicals are necessary for full emotional and physical well-being. Without enough limbic resonance in our lives, over time we function and feel less and less well. This is why isolation is bad for us. We are social animals and we need one another. As adults, we become depressed and anxious without enough limbic resonance in our lives. And as newborn babies, we may die. And if we don't die, we are going to be damaged by this lack. We are not self-contained, self-regulating units. We are regulated through our healthy interactions with those to whom we feel safe and close. This is critical. How are you engaging with others, and where is your thermostat of limbic resonance? How are you engaging with the world around you, and where is your thermostat set here? How are you engaging with yourself? And where is your self-awareness, limbic resonance to self? Where is that thermostat set? And is it set differently for different parts of you? Might there be parts of you that are waiting to hear, so glad you are, so glad you are, so glad you are?